This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring a discussion on voter turnout in the first two phases of general elections 2024 and voter aware campaign by the Election Commission of India. The participants Akshay Rawat, former Director General of the Election Commission of India, and Sonu Sood, anchor.
Election Commission of India has released the voter turnout figures for the first two phases of ongoing general elections 2024. In phase 1 on April 19, 102 constituencies that went to polls saw 66.14% turnout. In second phase for 88 seats on April 26, the voter turnout improved marginally to 66.71%. To discuss these outcomes and the prospects in the remainder 5 phases of world's biggest election, we have with us Shri Akshay Rawat, former DG of Election Commission of India. Welcome to Akashvani, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir, we'd like to know from you, how would you evaluate the voter turnout figures that have been released for phase 1 and 2? They have crossed 66% mark. How would you see these figures?
I will consider it as a very good turnout indeed. If you look at the turnout history in the elections of India, you'll find, of course, we are talking about only 2 phases. There are still 5 phases to come. But you will find these 2 turnout figures to be quite on the high level. So I'll consider them as good turnout. And also, if you compare this turnout with a global turnout levels in elections across the world, you will find them somewhere in the upper middle, where India has always been there recent times. Perhaps there is one point which may be coming to the mind of some listeners. In the 2014 and 2019 elections, there was very impressive turnout at the end of it. Means the final turnout figures were 66.4 and 67.4 in 2019. This is because the Election Commission of India has for last 14 years has been very proactive in terms of helping and facilitating, informing, motivating voters to come out to the polling stations and vote. And the results are there for everyone to see. This turnout, I think, is in line with those turnout levels. Because earlier, if you look at 1951 and after that, except for years in which there were some major national events impacting on turnout levels, the turnout has been quite moderate to below moderate. And that was a real concern why in 2009-10, the Election Commission thought it necessary to launch a special initiative to raise the turnout levels. So I think 2014, 2019 and now 2024, only first 2 phases are in the same category of high and good and smooth turnout levels.
So, sir, Form 17C updates and postal ballots, of course, are still to be added to these figures. So we will see a further upward revision. If we see gender-wise, there seems to be overall parity. But if we talk about state-wise, the outcomes which have been released, there are the voter percentage of females voters is more in many states like Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Jammu and Kashmir, Manipur, Meghalaya. And most of these are slightly sensitive states. So you feel that there is a lot of hope also which is attached to going out and voting for your government?
Plenty of hope indeed. The women participation in Indian elections has reached spectacular levels. Our women are more on the electoral roll increasingly, and definitely at polling stations they turn out in much greater numbers than in the past. In many state elections in the recent times, women have outnumbered men in turnout. And very impressively, in the 2019 national election, which was the last one before this, women actually were for the first time fully ahead of men in turnout nationally. So the result has been that political parties, candidates are not able to ignore women in any manner. In fact, women are actively on the agenda of political parties. If you find the manifestos and agendas in the last state elections and now also in the national election, you will find that the parties have been very sensitive to make sure that women are really remain on their side by giving them their agenda a very substantial part in the overall the party narratives and manifestos, things like that. So it has been great. By sheer strength of participation, women have made sure that they get a higher deal in the political and democratic cake of the country, which is the best story of recent times. And I, for one, I am able to connect this to the women reservation bill coming, because it is almost like women have, through their own participation, demanded and got it. So it's all a great story for Indian election, Indian democracy, and equality of women.
Another phenomena which has been observed is that in the urban areas, usually the turnout is much less. And now, what is the reason for this urban apathy? You know, we find that there are a lot of armchair critics who have a lot to say about the policies and the government and the way the governance is happening. But when it actually comes to doing something, to contributing to democracy, they do not they do not exercise their franchise, which is quite frustrating. So how do you think this is being tackled?
That's something which is regrettable for sure. And one of the things which Election Commission is fighting as a management agency is urban apathy. Not long ago, I think just last month, a few weeks back, the Election Commission of India called all the metro commissioners of India, prominent ones, Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Chennai, and sat down with them and asked them to find ways and take responsibility to make sure that the eligible citizens come more out to vote. It's not that these people, urban dwellers, many of us, they don't lack in electoral literacy. They know for sure what democracy is, what election is, how important voting is. It's just they fall short of action. We can blame many things. We can blame the polling station being here or there. We can talk about my name was appeared here or there. We can talk sometime about the heat. We can talk about many things. But these will be at the end of the day for someone who has a comfortable life, who is in the middle class, who is well up, who is educated. I will consider this as an excuse, which is perhaps not too easy to accept. Because it's not only my duty, it's also my right. And this is a civic necessity, a matter of civic importance, a matter of constitutional importance, a matter of importance for the future of India. And what is my claim to my social well-being, my material well-being, my educational well-being if I don't step out and vote? Just imagine the people in rural areas who are struggling for their daily necessities, who do not have that level of education. They come out in good numbers and vote. They understand the importance of their vote. So what can be an excuse for an urban dweller? Yes, we have problem of migrants. That, of course, will require another stage of activity and particularly political consensus to accept some type of remote voting.
Right.
So, but that's not the whole question. The question, again, boils down to urban apathy. Just see, we had Bengaluru elections, the tech city of India. Some days back, we had elections in that whole state of Karnataka. The Karnataka as a state really scored very high in turnout, but Bengaluru strayed behind. This time also, it's not a great story. So, I think it all depends on our cities to rise out of this inertia, if you call it, and to make sure that they do what they should do, they take part. And what is more important than one election periodically in which you elect your representative who form the government and who decide everything that the policy, the direction, the future of the country, it's all in your own hands. It's just a collection of choices of all of us. So if you do not come and volunteer to give your choice, just give your choice. When you are falling short, okay, there is nota, none of the above. If you do not like X, Y, G, all candidates, then you can go for nota. But nothing tends to an excuse that you add a Friday or a Monday, then go out to take a 3-day holiday somewhere when you have been given 1 day off just to exercise your franchise.
So, sir, is it also about breaking this mindset of what difference will one vote make? Because we are seeing that the Election Commission of India is making all-out efforts. There's this, we hear about this village in Arunachal Pradesh where there was only one eligible voter and the whole machinery went there, trudged miles and miles, and they are making sure no voter is left behind. So that also should put some moral pressure, you feel, and these 33, 34 odd percentage of voters not showing up, even that should go down, you feel?
There are a lot of things which Election Commission of India does which are almost like fascinating, inspirational stories. But just imagine that it is perhaps one of the very few, or maybe the single one, election management body who gives voters 85 and above the facility to vote at home. I mean, the whole polling machinery goes to someone's home to collect a vote. And as you said, in very difficult areas of Arunachal, in some riverine areas, in some island areas, in some border areas of turmoil, in extremist affected areas, Election Commission of India raises a polling station just to collect maybe half a dozen votes. But so that is an exemplary initiative that India has organized to make sure that our democracy is foolproof and our franchise is that much rich. But in that context, the urban apathy will appear very, very shallow and a very insensitive way of approach to life. And not only Election Commission of India, I must make a point here, our particularly vulnerable tribal groups, our people who are in very difficult conditions of life, people with disabilities, the transgenders, and there are the people who are more than 90, 100 centenarian, many of them do not even opt for the home voting facility. They demonstrate their spirit and their sense of duty and sense of right by coming to the polling station, just to demonstrate. And if a 90 plus voter, I just saw the other day in Bangalore, a 94-year former Air Marshal, Mr. P.V. Iyer, I think is his name, he just walked to the polling station and voted. So if we have examples like that, what can be the excuse for a young man who is in the college or university, or a middle class urbanite who is in a resident welfare association in the RWA area? What could be the excuse?
Sir, we are talking about Election Commission of India's exemplary efforts. This sweep program, systematic voters education and electoral participation program, which they have initiated, it has been going on educating voters, motivating, informing them. Now, for around 190 seats, the polling is already over, but it is still remaining for more than 350 seats. So you think renewed thrust to sweep activities, what are these major activities you feel which could generate more voter turnout in the coming phases?
The election management is at it. They have come out in this election with something very innovative called Targeted Intervention Plan, TIP. So in that, they have picked up maybe 266 parliamentary constituencies. The constituencies and the assembly segments which have a lower turnout than the, say, next average, like state average or national average. And they have come out with plans and particular models of activities and initiatives and solutions so that these particular constituencies do not lag behind. They cover up and make it to the next level of average. And those who are already at the next level, they become aspirational to go to the further level of higher average. So that I'm sure that we already are talking about more than 66% turnout in the first two phases. That's definitely working somewhere. And I'm sure that because there is a consciousness that the voter turnout can improve even higher so that the final turnout could be something, in fact, matchable to or even more than the last two national elections. Activities which are taken up at the state level and district level, and few of them in the central campaign, which are seen everywhere now. I'm very impressed with the way there has been a pro bono arrangement between the election voting under the sweep, as you mentioned, the election-related messages and organizations and networks which have the highest outreach, like post offices, banks, petrol pumps, and many industrial establishments and others who have really taken forward this message to reach out to people and make sure that people come out to vote. There are some barriers like weather-related or certain other things, but once the motivation is created and people are registered on the electoral roll and people have knowledge about what, when, how, where to vote, for which the Election Commission of India is relentlessly working through technology, through personal outreach, through district and state level outreach all the time. I'm sure that the coming 5 pages, the results of turnout are going to be even better than what it already has been.
On this optimistic note, we would like to thank you, Mr. Raut, for joining us and giving us a deeper insight into the ongoing general elections 2024.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on voter turnout in the first 2 phases of general elections 2024 and Voter Aware campaign by Election Commission of India. The participants were Akshay Rawat, former Director General of Election Commission of India, and Sonu Sood, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.